Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a first trimester recap and I'm going to try and make it really quick because the light is failing us. So I'm not in my first trimester now, so make no mistake, this huge bump is third trimester, but I didn't really have a chance to film any recaps. And by the way, my daughter's back here, so she may be joining us, but right now she is just watching something on the iPad. So I'm going to start with a few kind of common questions when you talk about pregnancy with somebody. First off, were we trying for another baby? And the answer is yes. We decided that we wanted to have our first two children at least close in age to each other. So I asked my doctor at my post-op appointment after having Pearl, which was, I had a C-section. I had an emergency C-section to have her. And I asked my doctor when it would be safe to get pregnant again, because I wanted to go by any sort of medical recommendation so that I wasn't putting the second baby or myself at any sort of risk. And I was told a year. So I was like, okay. And they said, see you in a year. And I said, yes, you will. And they did. So after almost a year, I said to Gabe, okay, let's start trying to have another baby, because you never know how long it could take. I kind of get that weird paranoia that I feel like is really common for women, where it's like, what if it's hard to get pregnant? What if? And I kind of felt that way before I got pregnant with Pearl too, because I was like, oh my god, I was 29 at the time. I was coming up on 30. I was like, what if it's hard to get pregnant? And fortunately for myself and my husband, it's not hard. But I know that's not the case for everyone, so I wanted to be trying before it was too late or something. And we started trying, I think, about a month before her birthday. And at that point, we kind of messed up on trying for one cycle because we had already missed the window, and we kind of knew that. And then the next cycle, we missed the window because it turns out I ovulate a little bit earlier in my cycle than you would think is typical. Definitely not day 14, more like day, I don't know, 7 or 8. Really, really early in my cycle. So we hit that window on the second real cycle trying. So we had that first one where we're like, okay, it's already too late. And the second one where we missed the window. And the third one was where I got pregnant because we, of course, hit the window. And we kind of have a very thorough strategy when it comes to conceiving. So we are intimate every day or every other day at least. So we never are off more than one day for the entire cycle. Through the whole cycle, doesn't really matter if we think we've succeeded or not. So I was pregnant after that second real cycle of trying. So moving on to what we're having, we are having another girl. And I know people talk about cravings and things like that in these recaps, and this time I had a craving for sweets, which last time, my first pregnancy, which was another girl, I craved salty stuff. At least for me, cravings have no bearing on what I'm having, what I'm carrying. And another question that might be asked is, do we want more kids than the two that we are going to have? Because we're going to have 2 daughters when I deliver this summer, which is coming up, really coming up. And at this point, I don't think we're done, but I want to maybe give it a few years, like a little bit longer this time around, because going through pregnancy twice with less than a year between them has been really, really grueling on me. Although I feel like I got pregnant at a really good time, like a very good age that Pearl was at, because she was pretty easy to care for. She's still super easy to care for, and I think maybe that's just her temperament anyway. But I feel like it helped that she was still pretty little. I do think that we will have a third at some point, and then kind of just go from there after that, but we shall see. In terms of symptoms, the first trimester I really had a lot of nausea, a lot of fatigue. It was a lot like my pregnancy with my first daughter. And I just spent a lot of time resting, a lot of time kind of lying in bed, just playing with Pearl in what ways I could, until that kind of passed, which took longer than the first trimester for it to pass. I was also peeing a lot. That was one of the first things I noticed. I also had major aversions to meat, especially chicken. I still have an aversion to chicken. I don't want to eat it. I don't know why my body thinks it's poison when I'm pregnant, but it does. And I drank a lot of milk at the time just to kind of get by, and I'm still doing that. I do that with every pregnancy. It's just easy calories. It's a lot easier to drink milk to survive than to eat like chicken, which I have a huge aversion to right now. And now I can eat some beef again, like ground beef in the form of like a burger or in pasta sauce or whatever, but chicken is still really kind of hard for me to stomach for some reason, which might also be a texture thing right now. And the last symptom that I really had was kind of being out of breath, and you're going to notice that in me now a heck of a lot more, just because my baby is absolutely gigantic at this point, and she's weighing me down, shifting my center of gravity a lot, and just kind of very much cramping my lungs and the rest of my organs. So that starts in the first trimester, and of course gets more intense over time as the baby grows, which again I think has to do with having more blood volume so that you can provide everything you need for your baby. So we did have a dating ultrasound in the first trimester, and that again confirmed kind of when ovulation was for us, which it's always a little bit earlier than is typical, so like day 7 to 9 instead of like day 14, which is like typical, which I don't think is actually typical for anyone really. I think that there's such a wide range of normal and typical, and it's very frustrating that day 14 is even a thing. And that's probably why I get pregnant pretty easily, because since I ovulate really early in the cycle, I have a lot of time for everything to implant and just kind of get going before the cycle is over. The day we found out was pretty interesting, because Gabe was like, okay, go take a test, because he seemed to know, and I was like, no, I don't want to take a test, I don't want to take one, because my period wasn't due yet, so I didn't want to take one. On the cycles I get pregnant, I don't want to take a test until after the period is due, and for whatever reason on the cycles I don't get pregnant, which was to this time, I do want to take a test early, and I test early and it's negative and I'm disappointed. So oddly enough, in this case, I did not want to take a test, which was almost like a sign that I was pregnant, because that's how it always goes for me. So I did take a test on that day, and I believe it was like the day before my period was supposed to come, and it was positive. I had the faint line. Took the test, told Gabe, we were very excited. I almost didn't know how to feel, because I'm like, wow, this is happening again. It's always kind of a monumental feeling when you are pregnant, and especially because we had to try this time, and last time was kind of like a oops, I'm pregnant thing. Get here. Let's finish this up, huh? Okay. The last thing I wanted to mention is that we always do the NIPT blood test, because we want to know what we're having early, and we don't want to rely on the anatomy scan for that, because, you know, that could be wrong, and NIPT is very, very rarely wrong. So we usually do the NIPT for that reason, and also just for the peace of mind with the rest of it. Both times it's come back super low risk, and obviously Pearlie is healthy and happy. So we did the NIPT again this time, and it was a girl again, right? You get a little sister. And here we are. And now I'm in the third trimester, so if you look at the bump, this is not a first trimester bump, obviously. But I will be doing a third trimester recap at some point, and a second trimester recap very, very soon, probably next week's video. I don't know. We shall see. But yeah, this is the bump right now. This is very third trimester. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. I hope maybe it helps you to figure out if you're pregnant for the first time, or maybe you can relate if you've been pregnant before, or anything like that. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Say bye, baby. Bye.